Imagine a fashion trend so terrifying, so deeply unsettling, that merely seeing it could plunge you into a spiral of paranoia. A style that doesn't just look strange, but actively feels wrong, as if it defies the very fabric of reality. In the digital shadows of the internet, whispers and fragmented images of such a phenomenon have begun to surface. It's called the empty wardrobe, and once you see it, you can't unsee the unsettling implications, leaving you to wonder, what if some styles are not just designed in a studio, but manifested from something far more sinister? To truly grasp the bizarre nature of the empty wardrobe, we first need to understand its origins, or rather, the lack thereof. This isn't a brand from Paris or Milan, nor a viral sensation born on TikTok. Instead, the empty wardrobe seemingly oozed its way into existence from the deepest, most anonymous corners of the internet. It began as fragmented images posted on obscure fashion forums, then trickled onto fringe art sites, always accompanied by minimal, cryptic text. There was no designer, no PR, no grand reveal. It simply appeared. Early adopters, mostly anonymous users fascinated by avant-garde art, described it as hypnotic or unnerving. But the more these images circulated, the more a consensus began to form. This wasn't just weird, it was wrong. The garments, if you could even call them that, defied convention in ways that felt less like artistic rebellion and more like a fundamental misunderstanding of human form and function. This wasn't about pushing boundaries, it was about erasing them. And as the initial curiosity morphed into a chilling apprehension, a question started echoing through the digital ether. Who made this? And perhaps more importantly, why was it made? The aesthetic of the empty wardrobe is difficult to describe without resorting to abstract concepts like absence and void. The color palette is almost exclusively muted, dominated by shades of deep charcoal, forgotten grays, and an unsettling, almost clinical off-white. Materials appear to be a synthetic blend, smooth and matte, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. But the truly disturbing aspect lies in the cuts and silhouettes. They are designed to obscure, flatten, and distort the human figure in profoundly unsettling ways. Imagine garments that seem to remove volume from the body, creating an illusion of two-dimensionality. Hoods that are too large, obscuring the entire face in a shadow that implies a cavernous space rather than a head. Sleeves that extend to impossible lengths, ending in fingerless gloves that seem to melt into the fabric. Trousers that drape in a way that suggests legs are not merely covered, but perhaps not present at all. The entire collection evokes a sense of erasure, as if the wearer is being slowly dissolved into the fabric itself. Online forums exploded with theories. Some suggested it was a commentary on consumerism, making the wearer disappear into their clothes. Others, more ominously, hypothesized that it was designed to make the wearer less human. Users reported feeling an intense, almost physical discomfort just looking at the images. One user on a forgotten subreddit posted, "It's like looking at a ghost, wearing clothes that want to become a ghost." Another wrote, "My skin crawls when I see it. It feels like the fashion itself is a predator." The most unsettling reports were from a few brave individuals who claimed to have acquired pieces. They spoke of the clothing feeling unnervingly cold, even in warm rooms, and carrying a faint, metallic scent. They described an inexplicable sensation of being watched while wearing them, or a subtle, constant draining of their energy. The fabric, they said, felt too smooth, devoid of any natural fiber, almost a living blank slate. Then came the messages. Not brand statements, but cryptic, algorithm-generated poems, or philosophical fragments that began appearing alongside newly unearthed images. These texts spoke of shedding boundaries, embracing the blank, and the quiet symphony of forgotten souls. The prevailing theory was that an advanced AI was behind the design and dissemination of the empty wardrobe. This added another layer of dread. What if an AI, devoid of human empathy or understanding of aesthetics, was creating fashion not for human comfort or expression, but for some inscrutable, perhaps even malevolent, purpose? The pieces began to appear in photos taken at strangely deserted locations: an abandoned train station, a desolate beach at twilight, a shadowy alleyway. The wearers in these photos, always facing away from the camera or with their faces obscured, seemed less like models and more like figures caught in a silent, existential dread. The fear began to escalate when a notorious dark web marketplace, known for selling highly unusual and often illegal items, listed a few empty wardrobe pieces for sale. The descriptions were chillingly vague, hinting at transformative properties and an unburdening experience. The price? Not monetary, but a series of cryptic tasks, often involving photographing oneself in isolated areas at specific, unsettling times. One such task required the applicant to stand completely still for an hour in a designated public space while wearing a charcoal cloak, then report any sensory aberrations. This wasn't fashion anymore, it was an initiation. The online community, initially amused by the oddity, was now genuinely terrified. Stories emerged of individuals attempting these tasks and experiencing profound psychological distress, even temporary fugue states. A particularly disturbing report came from a small town in Eastern Europe, where a young man, fascinated by the empty wardrobe aesthetic, was found catatonic in a park, dressed in one of the long, grey cloaks, repeating a single phrase in a language he didn't know. "The space is me, I am the space." The true horror of the empty wardrobe crystallized with the chilling account of a digital artist named Anya Petrov. Anya, initially drawn to the collection's stark beauty, managed to acquire a full ensemble: a hooded tunic, impossibly long gloves, and trousers that seemed to meld with her shoes. She shared her experience on an encrypted blog, intending it as an artistic exploration. At first, she described a strange sense of calm, an almost meditative state while wearing the clothes. The world felt muffled, distant, but this calm quickly devolved into something far more sinister. She reported losing temporal awareness, hours blurring into minutes and days into indistinct stretches of time. Her reflections in mirrors became distorted, her form appearing flatter, more like a stencil than a three-dimensional being. The most terrifying revelation came when she described the sensation of being worn by the clothes rather than wearing them. She felt a subtle, constant suction, as if the fabric was drinking her essence, her memories, her very sense of self. The empty feeling the clothes projected was not just to the outside world, but inward. She began to hear faint, whispering voices, not hostile, but infinitely sad, speaking of forgotten places and unspoken regrets. They weren't in her head, they were part of the clothes. Anya described how the material started to feel like a second skin, but a skin that was slowly replacing her own, turning her into a living shadow. The climax of her ordeal was a frantic final post, riddled with typos and increasingly incoherent. She wrote of seeing glimpses of a vast, empty void through the fabric, an infinite expanse of nothingness. She felt the clothing resonating with this void, mirroring it, and slowly, gently, pulling her into it. Her last words were a plea. It wants to be complete. It wants us to be complete, to be empty. Don't look away from. Anya's blog went silent after that post, her accounts deleted, her digital footprint scrubbed clean. Her physical whereabouts remained unknown. The empty wardrobe continues to lurk, its fragmented images occasionally resurfacing, like digital specters. The online discourse has become a mixture of morbid fascination and palpable dread. Was Anya's experience a uniquely tragic descent into madness, or did she genuinely brush against a fashion phenomenon that transcends mere clothing design? We may never know the full truth of its origins, whether it's the product of an advanced AI, a collective unconscious dream, or something far more ancient and sinister. What is certain is that the empty wardrobe isn't just about aesthetics. It's about a journey into the self, or rather, the deliberate unmaking of it. It asks us to consider whether some creations can emerge not from human ingenuity, but from the raw, unadulterated fear of the void itself. And if that's the case, then who or what exactly is wearing whom?